This is Speak Up. I am Sandra Schulte. We're so fortunate today to have Mr. Chris Strunk back with us. In fact, I see something on his lap that seems very interesting. Mr. Strunk, would you hold that picture up? Ah, Andrew Cuomo. And it says he gave birth to, would you tell us?
Fannie and Freddie's expansion problems, which have resulted in the present melee in the markets, etc. Wayne Barrett did an article back in August in the Village Voice, and he sort of separates some of the primary roots of the cause of the problems that are going on right now. And he doesn't get into some of the detail that I know is there, but certainly he lays the blame on the Democrats, and specifically on the Community Reinvestment Act and the imposition of giving mortgages to people who can't afford them through the auspice of HUD.
People who can't afford them? You mean that? What do you mean?
Well,
there aren't any standards?
During the 80s, they were giving out Section 8 vouchers. So when people can't afford to put 10% down on a home to live in, then they rent. And people who can't afford that were given Section 8, and either it was Section 8 attached to the property itself, or Section 8 to the individual that can take it to whatever apartment that they would be able to get. That was dropped significantly after the LA riots in '92 under Jack Kemp, who then promoted the concept of providing mortgages for those who couldn't afford it otherwise, to make the pride of ownership the focus, hopefully to change social conditions and the culture of that had then existed in the early 90s. And of course, Clinton carried on. He passed with Congress, passed the laws in '94 allowing for the use of Community Reinvestment Act money, which had been developed under Carter in '77. And that, with a lot of other magic connected with Goldman Sachs and with the Federal Reserve. You remember Rubin?
Certainly. Treasury Secretary.
Right. They're all Democrats, and certainly the Goldman Sachs is at the heart of this mess, and they're a member bank of the Federal Reserve, as are others.
Are you suggesting that Goldman Sachs suggested, or the ideas?
Goldman Sachs is into putting their hands into the taxpayer's pocket in any way, shape, manner, or form they can do it. And there's a saying: you steal a little and you go to jail. Steal a lot, you become king. And certainly King Henry down there, the way he's structured this, it's going to end up close to $2 trillion. Not the 700 billion. That's merely a drop in the bucket. Under Fannie and Freddie, they wrote close to $3 trillion in these sort of debts. So, and all that's sort of being sucked out of the market in the last few days. Today's October 10th as we speak, and the predictions that the market would go down to the Dow Jones to 7,500 seem to be holding true, and it's.
Why 7,500? Is this the level that it was at before the HUD program went into effect?
Right, exactly. I mean, they're wringing the value out, or the inflated value out.
Or shall we say they're replacing the money that they're let's see.
They're wringing the excess baggage out of the market, and they're deflating it, which is good generally for. If you have a 401k, you can't pull out the money anyway. So you just sit tight. Kramer said that yesterday or the day before. If you've got something to spend money on the next 5 years, then you should consider pulling money out. But otherwise sit tight on the market until it deflates, it's going to allow people to actually afford to buy houses again. And Paulson is trying to keep the inflated values up and to reassess to assess. I don't think they ever figured out what the size of the derivative structures were, which is one of the problems. They couldn't evaluate it in the speculation sense. So Wayne Barrett goes into this in the Village Voice article. If you have a chance to pick that up, you should certainly, I don't know if anybody can see it here.
Hold it right in front of you, please.
Right in front of me, yeah.
That's right. That's
and
perfect.
But I think in one picture, a picture it says 1,000 words.
Could you zoom on that picture, please? In.
Yeah. So Andrew Cuomo now has rushed out with hopes that he's going to become the Securities and Exchange Commissioner with Jamie Gorelick, who are the ones who actually created this
Now, I understand that under Mr. Cuomo, who's now going to become the Securities and Exchange.
I don't. He'd like to.
He'd like to.
That's the fox in the chicken coop.
I understand that he abolished any kind of transparency over the kinds of financial transactions that were going on at Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac under his watch.
Right. Well, certainly under the Community Reinvestment Act, I think they had a portfolio of Fannie and Freddie of close to 42% of the loan structures as marginal, or that they had to guarantee.
Right.
So basically, he rewrote the regulations himself with Jamie Gorelick, and then allowed the ceiling to rise to 50%. Which puts 8% more at risk, but at the same time, he did not allow any of the data during the process of extorting banks to mandatorily make those loans on the basis of somehow there was redlining that went on. I mean, if you want to stop redlining, you stop pushing drugs into impoverished communities, and that's what's going on. It's been going on since the 60s in order to speculate on real estate. So the point is, redlining was designed, all this is designed to restructure the way that we as citizens relate to our government. And certainly the crisis took, as 9/11, as the various false flag structures, was to get people to do things that they wouldn't normally do under normal circumstances. This is to get a left and a right to rub together and to synthesize them into the final result. It's very Hegelian, it's Jesuitical, and the Jesuits are directly undermining and doing all of this stuff, absolutely insinuated into every aspect of finance.
Continue. Will you please give us some backup on that? You say the Jesuits are insinuated to every aspect of finance. How so? How is this possible?
Well, you have to go back to Manzini in 1848, who essentially, there was an Italian Revolution which ended up stripping the papacy of all its holdings. And they took all the churches and they took everything in Italy. There's a long line of history which we don't have time to discuss right now,
right.
But it took the Jesuits bringing Mussolini in order to have, and Mussolini immediately created this bank, the Vatican Bank, as a reparations structure to allow it to have this huge sum of money through the Rothschilds, which then became sort of the seed crystal for world financial